Hey guys, this is Lucas from Better Coding Academy, and I've got another code review video here. And in this one, we're going to have a look at a node.js application. Or I guess this is more just like everything here is in the command line and nothing's being displayed in the front end. But we're going to have a look at that anyways. So I'm going to do a quick yarn watch here. And you see we got kind of this body thing going on here where you have a body and then it's got a heart and a stomach which kind of start. And then once you stop the body, then the heart and the stomach both stop and the body is pronounced dead. So that's basically what we got over here. We've got an index.js which we kind of import colors to have the colors set up, and then we have the body there. We start the body and then like 5 seconds later we stop it, and then that's all that happens here. But then if you look inside body.js, we've got like the created methods, and you see we've got heart and stomach in here as well, and then we can stop those as well, and then heart has something like that and stomach something like this. So both of those are very similar, but the kind of idea is that you kind of have that start-stop pattern. So we're going to go through this code here, and I'm going to identify a few of the problems I found when reviewing this, and I'm going to share those with you today. Now the first one here is relatively simple, and that is that this body dot green thing and the same for heart dot red and stomach dot blue is repeated quite a few times. Now repetition isn't always a bad thing. I want to make that very clear, but there are certain cases of repetition which do better off when you combine them into a single value. So for example here, instead of doing body, what we're going to do is just grab that, get rid of that, and just type something like ticker, if I can write that correctly, and then go here, and we're just going to do const ticker equals body.green like that. So this way, we only need to write this once, and if we needed to change it, we only need to change it once for it to update for all of the methods. Now this isn't always a better thing. There are always trade-offs when doing things like this. Don't always think that like just by kind of combining different values together that it's going to be a good thing. That's not necessarily the case, but in this case here, it is better because we want to have consistent tickers across all of our methods, which is why we do this here. So now that you've got that, let's do the same thing for heart as well. So let's just grab that one, Command C, and then Command D to select all of them, replace it with ticker, and then just do something like const ticker is equal to, and paste that there like so. And let's do the same thing for stomach here. You see that this one here is also called heart, so let's change that to stomach. Let's grab this one here and just grab that one, grab those, pull this one ticker as well. The const ticker equals like that. So now you've got this for stomach, this for heart, and this for the body. So now if we go over here and you see it automatically restarted because I'm using yarn watch, but we got the body created, heart, stomach, and all that. Everything seems to be working still fine. So that's the first problem I wanted to talk about. Now let's have a look at stomach.js, and you'll notice here on line 16 is that we're hard coding the number 1250. So this is what we call a magic number, and it's usually not a good idea within your code, because let's just look at this example here. Let's say you haven't read this code before and you're reading it for the first time. When you see this number 1250 here, it's not very clear what exactly it does. If you do a little bit of inference into the code surrounding it, you can kind of see, okay, this means that we have a rumble every 1.25 seconds, but in some cases that might only be the top level explanation, and there might be actually sub levels of explanation as to why this number is set to a certain value. For example, if you have, say, an interval that checks something every second, you might be like, okay, it only checks every second. So in the future, you might change that to check every, say, 500 milliseconds. But what you don't realize is that in the check, it actually requires it to be at least, say, for example, 1 second because of some other process that is going on, so on and so forth. So these values just become very unclear, and it can be very easy to build incorrect assumptions into these magic numbers. So instead, a really easy way to do it is just to take it and do something like, say, rumble interval here. And let's go here and do const rumble interval is equal to 1250. So I'm going to grab that and just spell that correctly here. So now we have this as rumble interval, and we know that we're going to basically, this is how often it'll rumble, and that is the amount of assumption that we put on this number. So now let's go into heart and do a similar thing for the beat. So let's do a beat interval here, and then go here, do beat interval is equal to 750. So now that we got those two out of the way, let's actually have a look at how heart and stomach are being used in general. You notice here is that our stomach has static methods created, rumble, start, and stop, and our heart has the same thing. Now, if you look at body actually has a constructor and it has a start and a stop. These are instance methods, whereas in stomach and in heart, these are all static methods. Now, this is actually not good because if you think about it from a design perspective, and this obviously depends upon the situation, but if we just kind of look at this, take a step back and look at this from a bigger point of view, is that if we have a heart and then a heart is part of a body, then each body will have a separate heart and each body will have a separate stomach. It makes no sense to have a static kind of heart created method because then what happens if you want to have 2 hearts? Then really what it's only doing is just logging to the console. But the problem here is that the actual data, the underlying data isn't there to support it. So that even though it looks like it works now, in the future when we say, for example, want to store information about the heart, or like say count how many beats have passed or so on and so forth, then that information could not be easily stored inside of a heart object because we have all of these as static methods, which is why instead of doing this, we're going to use constructors. So the easy way to do this is just to change these 3 to beat, start, stop like that. And this one up here, instead of created, we're going to call this one constructor. So once you do that, let's go into body.js here. And inside the constructor, we're going to do this.heart is equal to new heart. So this creates a new heart and runs the constructor. And then instead of doing heart.start, we're going to do this.heart.start, which basically starts it, runs the start method on this instance of the heart class. So now we're going to grab this line and do something similar here. So this.heart.stop there. And then after we've done that, this should still be working just fine. So let's have a look. And you see our heart still goes badoom, and our stomach obviously still does rumble. We can type RS and press enter, and you see it's still working just fine. So now let's do something similar for the stomach as well. So back over here, instead of doing created, let's do a constructor here, and let's change these ones to non-static methods as well. And then once we do that, let's go into body, add in a stomach here as well. So stomach equals, say, new stomach here. And then instead of stomach.start, we're going to do this.stomach.start and also this.stomach.stop. So now we have a separate heart instance for each body and also a separate stomach instance for each body as well. So now there's just one final thing I want to touch on, and that's inside of heart and stomach. You'll notice up here is we have let interval equals null. So I want to take a step back here and talk about why code like this would appear in the first place. But first, let's talk about why this is bad. Well, the reason it's bad is because this interval here basically defines when the rumble is going to run, and that helps us start it and also helps us to stop. Now, why is this bad? Well, now that we can have separate instances of stomach and separate instances of heart, is that if we start one stomach and we want to stop another one, it would actually stop all of them, or actually stop only the last one because the interval gets updated. So basically, the way this works is that set interval gives you an ID, and then interval stores that ID. So it's just a number, and then clear interval basically clears that interval ID. So if you can imagine, let's just say we do something like stomach 1 start and then stomach 2 start. So at this point, the interval is for stomach 2. At this point here it will be for stomach 1. Now it's for stomach 2. And then if we do stomach 1 stop, what actually happens is it stops into, it will stop for stomach 2. Because the interval is set to stomach 2. It actually won't even stop stomach 1. And it doesn't matter. We could also do stomach 2 stop here, and it's the same thing. It will only stop stomach 2 because of the latest value of interval. So that's why having interval here is bad, and we need to convert that into a property which we have in our constructor. Now, why did this design come to be? Well, the actual reason is because our stomach and our heart were badly designed in the first place. You see, if we had the idea of having multiple hearts and multiple stomachs, which makes sense given the data and what we're trying to do, then we would understand that having an interval out here is a bad idea to begin with. So anyways, we're going to grab this here and we're going to move it into the constructor. So this.interval equals null. Alternatively, you could do this if you have bubble set up correctly, but you can just put it inside, which works fine as well. And instead of doing interval here, we're simply going to grab that, Command D, and then do this.interval there like so. And then we're going to move this one inside as well for heart. So grab that, do this.interval, change this one to this dot interval here as well. So we have this dot interval equals set interval, and we clear it, and we clear it down there as well. So now that we've done that, you see we've got our body created, heart, stomach, everything still seems to be working just fine. But I hope that this video has been helpful to you to understand a few problems when it comes to working with classes, static methods, instance methods, properties, and putting all that together in the right way. This has been Lucas with Better Coding Academy, and see you guys later.